This is a poem that I wrote in memorial to one of Wellington's famous buskers who was called Kenny because he looked like Kenny Rogers, and he used to play an atrocious version of the gambler, probably about 15 times a night. It's called Above All to Thine Own Self Be True. There was this busker in Wellington in the 1990s they called Kenny on account of the fact that he always played the gambler and had a cowboy hat and a frosted grin. He was like a wax figure from the flea-motel version of a celebrity-lookalike museum, and his leather jacket stank of bourbon. He stood out on Courtney Place and would field requests for the gambler and would bluntly play clipped versions of the chords, his guitar buzzing badly through the portable amp, his hipflask as prominent as any of his talent. If you asked, he'd recite poems and other songs or bits from them. He knew 200 songs and poems apparently, though to say he knew them seemed as much of a stretch as the skin plastered across his face. I got to know him on drunken nights as a student. Not really know him, of course, but he had to field my requests, and I would ringlead a flock to him, and we'd beg for the gambler and Girl You'll Be a Woman Soon, since Pulp Fiction was one of our reasons for being. And once I saw his list of poems and speeches, I'd get him to recite If by Rudyard Kipling, also Polontius's advice to Laertes from Hamlet, and he would give the few gathered his voice, those that lent an ear. I would do my best to follow him as the night, the day. But eventually we'd be on our way off to any other adventure of that evening. And then some years on, the local apartment dwellers complained about the noise. One of the benefits of wanting to live in the city is that you get to complain about the noises of the city while placing yourself by choice right in that zone. And since you don't have a backyard, you get to banish things from your doorstep. The council seized Kenny's amp, and he spent years standing on the street in his mittens and hat with his thermos and hip flask and a sign begging for signatures, his petition to take to the council to get his amp back, but he never made it. What he did make, though, was a CD. It was under his own name, John Adams, which I remember thinking was pretty funny since that's the name of a fully fledged composer. He called the CD Kenny since he knew where his bread had been buttered. No gamble there. He got my number and rang me to ask if I'd review the CD, and I said yes, and he sent me a copy. It was pretty fucking dreadful, mostly some poems and prayers. I wondered how I might tactfully say something about this CD in the paper I was writing for at the time. I spent time looking up tactfully in the dictionary and wrestling with that, for example. And then John Adams telephoned me again. Seemingly out of the blue, he'd changed his mind and would like the CD back, please. He had done some research. He had been reading my reviews, and he was sure that my brain had been infected by the devil. The devil, he informed me, was strong, son, and strong in my work, apparently. He left an address for the return of his album and hung up the phone. I posted the CD back to him. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. And I only thought about it again when I read the news a year or so later that John Adams had died of brain cancer. Now Kenny Rogers, the real one, is gone as well. And so I remember Busker Kenny one more time.